Namaste. Welcome to our second video for the concept of cell and cell organelles under Unit 6 for the preparation of paper 2 for the UGC NET exam for yoga. Starting where we left off last time, just to revise, we are talking about cell organelles. Cell organelles, which are like the smaller subunits of cell, which is the structural and functional unit of any living organism. Let us understand what organelles are. Organelles literally means little organ. Each organelle in the cell is a compartment enclosed by a boundary wall, that is the membrane, and it performs a unique set of functions. As I mentioned in the earlier video, the human cell is eukaryotic in nature. That is, it has a well-defined nucleus and cell organelles. So let us understand what are the different organelles in the human cell. Coming first to the nucleus. The nucleus is considered the brain of the cell. It is the structure which controls what happens within the cell and how the cell behaves. It contains DNA, which is going to decide what the cell is going to do and how it is going to do it. Understanding the parts of the nucleus, just like the cell has an outer envelope which separates the inside of the cell from the outside, the nucleus has an envelope too. This nuclear envelope or nuclear membrane separates the inside of the nucleus from what is the outside, which is the cytoplasm. And why is it important to do that? It's because any envelope is protective in nature. So like the cytoplasm protects the outside of the cell protects the inside of the cell from what is outside, the nuclear envelope protects what is inside the cell, inside the nucleus from what is outside. And what is inside the nucleus? DNA and RNA, that is our genetic material. The code which decides how the entire cell is going to function. If our cell is like a computer, the nucleus is like a CPU which decides what each and every part of the cell is going to do and how it is going to do it, and therefore it is very important to protect it so that the cell functions in a proper manner. So as we understood, the DNA and RNA are the genetic material, and the nucleolus is another important integral part of the nucleus. It forms the dense matter in the center of the nucleus, and this is the site where ribosomes are formed. It is the assembly site for ribosomes, which are important structures which help in protein synthesis or protein production. When the nucleus forms the ribosomes, there are pores in the nuclear envelope, which are small holes which allow for the movement of materials in and out of the nucleus as and when required. The ribosomes formed in the nucleus then move out from the nucleus out into the cytoplasm through these nuclear pores. Let's see where they go. These ribosomes can go to two places. Either they can be suspended in the cytoplasm, which is the fluid inside the cell. It is like a gel-like structure. This cytoplasm also has a cytoskeleton, which is like a framework of certain fibers. These fibers are basically microfilaments that you see here, which are filaments that is like thin structures, and microtubules, which are like tubular hollow structures. Together, microfilaments and microtubules form this sort of meshwork which helps to hold the cell organelles in place. Because the cell is not one-dimensional, it is three-dimensional. It isn't flat. Every organelle has a certain dimension, 3D wise it has a size. So this is how a cell structural organization takes place within the cytoplasm. and this is how the organelles are suspended in different parts of the cell. Therefore, the ribosome can either freely move around in the cytoplasm and through the cytoskeleton, or it can go to the endoplasmic reticulum. Now, what is the endoplasmic reticulum? Endoplasmic, endo inside, plasmic fluid, reticulum, reticular is basically like a network of tubes. So endoplasmic reticulum is basically a passageway. It is meant for transportation of certain items. Now, when the ribosome comes out of the nucleus, as you can see, the membrane of the endoplasmic reticulum continues from the nuclear envelope. So when the ribosomes come out of these holes, they can attach to the wall of the endoplasmic reticulum. This sort of endoplasmic reticulum, ER, is rough ER, okay, for short RER. And if the ribosomes don't attach to the outside walls of the ER, then it is smooth ER, that is SER. Either way, both ER are responsible for transportation of proteins that are synthesized by the ribosomes. Now, once the proteins are formed here, these proteins need to be transported to other parts of the cells, because these proteins are like messages being sent to the other parts of the cells to allow them to understand what functions need to be performed. This transportation happens through something called as vesicles. Vesicles are structures which are basically within or outside the cell. They basically contain some liquid or cytoplasm, and it is enclosed by a lipid bilayer. For now, you can just understand that it is some amount of cytoplasm enclosed by some sort of membrane. It is almost like a mini cell, but it only carries the necessary proteins from the ER to the other parts of the cell. Okay, it will not have any organelles. It is an organelle itself. Vesicles basically transport the transport materials from the ER to the next important organelle, and that is the Golgi apparatus. Now, what is Golgi apparatus? It's also called Golgi body, or it is called Golgi complex. It is similar looking to the endoplasmic reticulum, but it can independently exist within the cytoplasm, just suspended. This is the typical shape, and basically it is again tubular in structure. But what it does is, once these proteins are coming in through the vesicle, this is the incoming transport vesicle. The vesicle basically comes here, and it is, remember, it is cytoplasm and it has a membrane around it. The membrane is designed in such a way that it simply comes and it fuses into the membrane of the Golgi body. Similar to, like, imagine if there is a large, like a puddle of water, and a small droplet of water comes and trickles to it, it very seamlessly fuses into the entire body of water. Similarly, the vesicle comes, and the protein layer that is surrounding the vesicle simply opens up in a way that it diffuses and becomes a part of the Golgi body, and the protein that is inside the vesicle, the message is delivered into the Golgi complex. Now, inside the Golgi body, this protein is further customized into forms that can be used within the cell. So over here, usually the proteins are turned and twisted and turned into more complex structures, which can then again be moved on to the other parts of the cell. Now understand again over here, how does it move from this Golgi body to the other parts of the cell? Again, it is through vesicles. So imagine that the message came from here, and then it underwent a bunch of twistings and turnings and more complications and more coding, and finally the message is ready to be sent. It comes here. Once again, just like a water droplet can separate from the entire pool of water, the secretory vesicle separates from the entire Golgi body and then it becomes an independent unit once again suspended in the cytoplasm. And again from here this secretory vesicle carries new proteins which are then moved to the other parts of the cell. Now let's move on to the next important cell organelle, and that is the lysosome. What is a lysosome? Some of these vesicles that separated from the Golgi body, they also carry enzymes which are certain substances to the lysosomes. We will understand what enzymes are at a later stage. For now, just imagine that they are certain chemical substances. Okay, they carry them to the lysosomes. Why are lysosomes important? Lysosomes are important because they are the waste disposal units of the cell. Now, just like in our body, if we don't go to the restroom or we don't urinate for a while, there is going to be buildup of toxic materials inside our body and it is going to cause issues. Therefore, intake of material and the excretion of material is equally important, which is why the waste disposal units of the cell are extremely important for the proper functioning of the cell. Now, why would you need waste disposal units in a cell? The lysosomes, they contain enzymes into they contain enzymes. These enzymes, they were bought by the vesicles. Okay, these enzymes within the lysosome, they are chemical substances that will help to speed up biochemical reactions. That is what enzymes do. If there is a chemical reaction happening within the cell, the enzyme will not participate in the reaction itself. All it will do is speed up the process of the chemical reaction. So, when the lysosome uh, decides to digest certain materials, these enzymes will help to break down those materials very quickly. Now, what are these materials? They can either be damaged or worn out parts of the cell. This concept, where a lysosome in the cell digests the damaged and worn out parts of its own cell, this concept is called autophagy. Auto means doing it for yourself, like on your own, and phagy means to eat. So when it eats up certain parts of its own cell, this aspect is called autophagy. Lysosomes can also digest unused material floating around in the cytoplasm. Certain materials which have been formed and have not been ended up like being taken up by other cell organelles, or have been formed and have been excreted from other cell organelles or have been released, if these materials are left unused, they will start reacting with different things in the cytoplasm and they will start creating issues. So you don't want that to happen. So the lysosome will quickly go, engulf it, digest it and decompose it. And then the last thing that lysosomes also deal with is foreign particles that enter the cell, or other cells, that smaller cells that can enter a larger cell. So for that matter, lysosomes form an excellent protective function of the cell to help the cell combat against entry of foreign material or foreign cells. Okay. So, coming to the next important part of the cell organelles, that is the mitochondrion. Now, so far I explained that there is a nucleus and it is the brain of the cell and it forms ribosomes, which is like a unit which helps to come out and then do protein production. These proteins are basically messages that are going to be sent to the different cells, and the different sent to the different cell organelles, and then these cell organelles will perform different functions, and that's how the cell will function. But all of this is requiring expenditure of energy. Yes, just like when I am talking, there is expenditure of energy. Where is this energy coming from? So every cell has a powerhouse, sort of like an electric plant within itself, which gives power to the cell to run all its functions, and this integral part is called the mitochondrion. And what are the units of energy that the mitochondrion creates? that is the adenosine triphosphate. What is adenosine? We will understand at a later stage, but basically mitochondria are the energy molecules which help to power all the functions of the cell. So if you have to give it certain thought, do all cells require the same amount of energy? No. Certain cells require more amount of energy because they are functioning at a faster pace, or they are working for a longer time, or they are doing functions which require more energy. Yes? So cells which require more energy will have more mitochondria. For example, liver cells. These are functioning throughout the day, and therefore liver cells have more than 2000 mitochondria in every cell. Whereas some cells like human RBCs, they do not contain any mitochondria. Okay, so this is how different cells will have different number of mitochondria based on their functions and requirement. Mitochondria are special organelles in the sense that they are the only cell organelle other than the nucleus which carry their own independent set of DNA. Therefore, they have their own independent set of genetic material or coding information which helps the organelle to function on its own. They are also involved in various different functions in the cell, which is signaling. That is how the messaging is sent from one cell organelle to the other and from one cell to another. Cellular differentiation, which is if a cell is formed, how will it slowly start dividing and reproducing to form different type of cells? Because imagine cellular differentiation, the concept of a human baby. A human baby has n number of cells, but then the cells grow and they reproduce and they differentiate to form organs, tissues, organ systems, and that's how an organism grows. So this aspect of what cell will divide in what way to form what uh, other types of cells and tissues, this comes under cellular differentiation, and it is also controlled by the mitochondria. Cell death. All cells are living units, all living units will die. So cell death is controlled by the mitochondria. Then also controlling the cell cycle, which is what I explained, and cell growth, which is basically what I explained about how one small set of cells can differentiate and grow into a larger group of cells, which eventually go on to form tissues and organs. Therefore, all of these complex functions are controlled by the mitochondrion, and they are involved in these functions along with obviously the DNA and RNA material that is coming in from the nucleus. Now, sperm cells, we have to understand, they don't have any mitochondria, but the female ova do. The female egg that is found every month during the cycle of a woman, these female ova, they do contain mitochondria. Therefore, when a zygote is formed for the human embryo by combining one sperm cell with the ova, the mitochondria that actually comes into the embryo is coming from the ova, the female ova. So a child receives its mitochondrial DNA and mitochondria from its mother and not so from its father. And hence, in our culture, the word power is represented by a female aspect word, which is Shakti. Okay,